Hey, welcome to Aaron's Heart. My name is Darby and I'll be your bartender. Today, our special is actually a revisit of an earlier video, the paper plane. Okay, so it's summertime here in Florida, and it's like not kind of summertime. It's not like, oh yeah, it's nice and warm out. No, it's like melt your face off summertime in Northwest Florida on the beach, and it's brutal. But I'm a whiskey guy. So what's a whiskey guy to do, or a girl to do in Florida in the summertime? Because whiskey, we typically associate being heavier, thicker, kind of, warmer. Well, there's a few answers, but my personal favorite answer is today's cocktail, which is the paper plane. So let's talk about the paper plane for just a second. This was actually a video I did very, very early on when I started my channel. I did it off a cell phone with terrible audio quality, so we're trying to remedy that situation by redoing it today, and I think we're going to do a good job, and I think this is going to be a much better video when it's done. This is also take like 4 of trying to do this, because my neighbors across the road are finishing their house and they're getting all of their sprinkler systems put in and their sod put in and all of their landscaping done. So it's been super loud, and then my audio cut out, so it's been just nuts. So anyway, let's talk about the paper plane for just a second. 2008 was when this cocktail kind of became a thing. It was designed and created because so whether or not this is actually true, there was a gentleman who came in, had a bunch of random ingredients, and they said, we need you to make a cocktail for our club. This is what we have to work with. And he didn't have a whole lot. He initially created this using Campari, and then subbed the Campari out, because Campari is super, super bitter, and it basically was like a Boulevardier at that point, for Aparol. So Aparol is kind of the sweetening agent of this whole thing. It's super simple. This is one of those cocktails too that you can make as big or as small as you like. It's all equal parts. And I've personally played with the ratios a little bit, and I've come back again and again to the all equal parts ratio. I think it works the best. So with that said, try not to go under 3/4 of an ounce. Otherwise you basically won't have anything. You'll have like a sip. And try not to go over about, the biggest I've ever done was full 2-ounce pours. And that filled the glass that I was using completely. The other thing on this, it is preferable to serve it up. No ice in a chilled glass. Whether you could totally use like something like this. This would be really cool to serve it in if you were doing a bigger one, or a rocks glass. That's how it's typically served, I think, is in a rocks glass. That's how I've always, when I've ordered one, gotten it served to me. I have these really cool, my wife got me these really cool like tulip coupes. So I've got one of those in the freezer. We're freezing that. We're gonna get it nice and chilled, and you'll see it in just a second. Now let's talk about ingredients. You're gonna need high quality lemon juice. If you're making one, you can probably squeeze your own lemons. If you're doing like me and you make a lot, Walmart will squeeze your lemons for you. You're gonna need Aparol. We've used Aparol on the channel before. This is one of my favorite ingredients. You can totally just drink this by itself with ice. It's awesome. The Aparol Spritz uses this. The Aparol and soda is one that I actually had a gentleman order the other night at the bar that I work at. Came in and ordered, he said, I want Aparol on the rocks with soda water. I said, yes, sir. We made it happen. Then you're gonna need a bourbon. Okay, bourbon specifically, you guys know that I'm a rye fanboy, especially for my Rittenhouse 100 proof in my cocktails. That's usually what I use. But today we're using this Wilderness Trail 100 proof bourbon. Now, why am I using a 100 proof bourbon? It stands up better. Do you need to? Absolutely not. You can use whatever bourbon you like. Don't use a rye whiskey. I know that's, use a rye whiskey if that's all you've got. The only thing I'll say, absolutely do not use is Jack Daniels. Please, for the love of God, don't use like Jack Daniels or like, something along those lines. You want something with some nice, clean, smooth, easy drinking flavors. Jack Daniels tends to be a little too rough for this. But I'm using this Wilderness Trail 100 proof. I really, really like it. My wife got me this bottle and I pretty much only use it. This is like my select for making paper planes with because it stands up really well. Other good ones you can use that are really good. Elijah Craig makes a fantastic paper plane. 1792 is pretty good. Angel's Envy, of course. Angel's Envy is great. Then the other one that is pretty readily available now, most everywhere I've seen, is this Old Grandad 114. Wilderness Trail is kind of hard to find. I've only seen it in a few liquor stores here locally, but this I've seen more and more often. And for as cheap as it is, for being 114 proof, works really, really well. So anyway, enough with all that. Your last ingredient is your odd duck, right? This is Amaro Nonino. Now, you do not need this. Especially if you can't find this. This is kind of a specialty. Not a lot of cocktails use it. It's really, really good. You can also use Amaro Montenegro, which is much more readily available. It's much easier to get. And it's considerably cheaper. Typically, locally in the area, I found Montenegro for between $40 and $48 a bottle. This is close to $70. The original was done using Amaro Nonino. I personally like it better this way. You don't need to use it. If you can't find it or you don't want to spend $70 on one bottle, go with like the Montenegro. It works just fine and it's still delicious. With all of that said, let's get into making this. You're gonna shake it, okay? So, get something to measure with. I've got my little short guy here today. I'm gonna do equal parts, all 1 ounce pours. I'm doing 1 ounce pours because one, I'm gonna serve it up. And two, my coupes are huge, the ones that I've got. And I love them because they're massive. I normally would do this in 2 ounce pours, but simply because, I don't want to make that much. And this being my fourth take on this, we're not gonna do that. All right, so lemon juice, Amaro. Again, you don't need this bottle. Montenegro works just fine. Aparol, all 1 ounce pours. And now, last but not least, we're gonna go with our bourbon. I love this Wilderness Trail. It's got a beautiful, broad flavor range, and is really, really easy to drink, even being 100 proof. Now, we're gonna get some ice. See if I can crack this one today without making too much mess. Looks like it's doing all right. Maybe. There we go. Good enough for government work. All right, if you're shaking cocktails and you've got people in front of you or people around you, little tin goes towards you, okay? There's two reasons for that. One, if it comes off, rather I make a mess on me than on you. And two, I can also kind of, stick your finger in there and hold it down so it pins it in, right? about 10 seconds. You don't have to shake fancy or anything. Just give it a good shake, okay? And now, if we can get them to come apart, that's the ticket. There we go. All right. I've been asked over and over again, why do I always pour out of my short tin? It's just easier to control for me, all right? Some people pour out of their big tin. If I'm free pouring, like meaning I'm pouring all of my ice and everything else straight into a glass, like into a hurricane or something, then yeah, I'll pour right out of the big tin. It's just big, wide open mouth. But small tin, especially if I'm gonna strain off, it's just a little easier. All right, here we go. Oh, mouth's already watering. I love this cocktail. The smell coming off it already is intoxicating. So because we're using lemon, I'm gonna go ahead and garnish with this little slice of lemon I've got right here. Let's see if we can stick that guy in there. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, the Paper Plane. This is one of my favorite summertime cocktails. It's bright, it's fresh. I highly recommend, if you ever get new ingredients, right, sample all of them. Because in something like this, if you sample things, you know what you're looking for, right? So I don't think you need to sample lemon juice. We all know what that tastes like. But sample your bourbon, because you're gonna find if you sample your bourbon, you're gonna find it easier in there. Sample your Aparol. Your Aparol is our main flavor here. And then sample your Amaro, because it will disappear a little bit on you unless you know what you're looking for. So let's go ahead and give this a try and see what we've got. All right, nose, citrus and Aparol right up front, but there's a little bit of that like oak and vanilla from our bourbon. Oh man, it smells like the summertime. It smells earthy and bright and amazing. Flavor wise, so immediately it's very bright. It's very loud in your mouth. You get the tingle kind of in the sides of your mouth right here from our lemon juice because it is very citrus. If you wanted to cut that back a little bit, you totally could. Your Aparol adds sweetness, but it's not like overbearing sweetness. And then your Amaro kind of sits there in the background and balances out the super sweet Aparol and then our super heavy bourbon, right? Especially using like 100 proof bourbon, it really does taper it back a little bit and it really makes it so approachable. I mean, you could sit next to a pool, you could sit on the beach and drink one of these in the blazing sunlight and you almost wouldn't know that you're drinking bourbon, except that it's got this beautiful body to it that's just heavy enough that it kind of just holds you and it keeps you like in suspense a little bit. So anyway, that's the Paper Plane. Ladies and gentlemen, one of my favorite summertime cocktails. It looks beautiful. It drinks even better. Thank you guys so much for bearing with me. This whole working two jobs thing really has my schedule messed up. I'm gonna try and get this video out, edited, and upload it as quickly as I can. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. Remember, don't drink and drive. Drink responsibly. Tip your bartenders. It's summertime out there. Please, please, please be careful. The bar that I work at, less than half a mile from there last night, there was a car accident with somebody who was inebriated. Please, please be careful out there if you're out driving. I live in a tourist heavy area, but it doesn't matter. You could live on a backcountry road somewhere in middle America. If you are drinking, don't drive. Find somebody to drive for you. Thank you guys so much. Please remember, like, share, subscribe. Leave me a comment on what you guys want to see next. I've got a bunch of videos in the works. I've got several requests. They are coming, I promise. Getting ingredients right now is kind of tricky for some of these. But thank you guys so much. Until next time, have a cocktail. Please be responsible, be safe out there, and stay hydrated. It is the summertime. Thank you, and we'll see you guys in the next video. That's just too good to put down.